Namaste and greetings, Unity of Fredericksburg. Today we are talking about this idea of Christmas and birthing the Christ within. But we're going to talk about it from the paradoxical idea of what does it mean to birth the Christ within. So today we're going to embark on, much like the three wise men, we're going to embark upon this monumental adventure so that we can transform every aspect of our lives for the better. But first, let us begin with the idea of the paradox. What are we birthing? Like, what is there that needs to be birthed? Because if God is all there is, then what it is already present. So there is nothing that needs to be born. There's nothing that needs to be created per se. And because God is all there is, and it's everywhere present, then it must be right where we are right now. And if it's right where we are right now, is it just inside of us? Because then that implies that there is an inside and an outside, and God is on the inside, but not on the outside. God is within us, but not on the external, meaning God is the spirit and the soul, but not the body. But what if this idea of the Christ presence, God, spirit, source, the all that is, the infinite goodness, what if it is both within and the without, the as above and below? And what if the idea of what needs to be birthed is each day when we wake up, we are born again, we are reawakening to a new day with new opportunities, new possibilities, new potentialities. And so, what if the birthing is simply the recognition that this breath is life, that this thought is life, that these words are life, that the way that we show up and serve is life? We are birthing, we are creating life through every thought, every word, every action, every way of service, every way of walking the walk. What if that is the birthing? Not birthing the Christ, because the Christ already is. The presence of, the consciousness of the infinite I am that is ever becoming is already present. It is the infinite presence that is always, infinitely, eternally, before time, through time, post time. It is, was, and will forever be all that is. So there is nothing that needs to be birthed, and that which it is not simply within us. Dr. Paul Hasselbeck used to always reference, because we would say things like God within us, and he would say, so God like a hot dog in a bun? Well, you can take the hot dog out, so then it's hot dogless. Can we take God out of us? Because then there is God and then the body, or God and then the whatever, the external thing. But if God is all in all, a circle whose circumference is nowhere and whose center is everywhere, then as we say, there is not a spot where God is not. So breathe and take that in. Because this Christmas is our invitation to expand into this awareness. In 1918, Charles Fillmore said something referencing Christmas, where he said, we must perceive the real man. Let's make it non-gender specific. We must perceive the real person is constantly coming forth. We must perceive the real person, the real essence of person is constantly coming forth. This is the meaning of Christmas. It does not belong to the past. It is a vital, living, present truth. The bringing forth of the Christ child is not a work that is finished in Bethlehem. It is taking place in our very midst every day, every moment. And it is this that we celebrate at Christmas. Christmas is about the birth of our Christ consciousness, which is at the center of the human soul. It is a holy place within and a very high attainment. But is it just within? Like, pause and marinate on that once again. Is it just within us? Is it not breathing itself as us? There is only one mind. Is it not that same mind that we are using? Emma Curtis Hopkins said, there is no sin, sickness, or death. My God is my good, and vice versa. My good is my God. My God is my good. There is only the infinite goodness. So what do we tend to do, though? The reason we talk about this idea of birthing the Christ, birthing the infinite and eternal light, is because we get bogged down by the darkness. We vilify the darkness. But what if the darkness isn't the enemy? What if the darkness is the invitation? Because the blackest of, the deepest of, the darkest of night skies is the precise sky that allows the twinkling of stars to be seen. What if the darkness, the yin of yin yang, is to be embraced? And what if in the embracing of it, in the reconciling of it, in the at-oneing of it, the atoning of it, what if that's precisely when we align with the truth of our being? Just like the Star of Bethlehem lit up the night sky in the story in the Bible, and the three wise men followed the star. They followed the star, which showed them where the Christ child, Yeshua, was born. The dark and the light were collaborating together, were cooperating together. So what if it's precisely in bringing yin and yang together, reconciling that there are aspects of us that are being asked to change? So rather than vilifying, our anger or our depression or sadness and grief, loneliness, angst, rather than shun the dukkha, the suffering, bring it in and break it down and say, what is the gift that I am choosing to reconcile, choosing to extrapolate from this? We light candles for the purpose of what? Illuminating the night. I'm not sure that people light candles during the hour of noon. Light is the representation of illumination. But there is the darkness, which is not the enemy. We plant seeds into dark soil. But there is still the light that is the representation of illumination and enlightenment, awareness and consciousness. So the season of lights, whether it's Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, the idea of the winter solstice, there are invitations to go within, to find the place within us that we tend to shun and deny and denounce, and bring those broken pieces back to us, heal them and mend them, not judge them, not criticize ourselves for them, but to bring them in and find reasons to celebrate all of the ways that spirit is present in, through, and as us. There's two quotes that Jesus said. I came that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And I did these things, these miracles, and so can you, and even greater. In those two passages, those two quotes, we are invited to live life more abundantly. But when we deny the Christ presence, the Christ consciousness, or Buddha consciousness, avatar consciousness, the infinite intelligence consciousness, whatever we're calling it, when we deny it in our denial of any aspect of ourselves, when we deny any aspect of ourselves, we are denying that. For example, Someone gives you a compliment. Are you able to receive it with grace and gratitude, no matter what the compliment is? Because some of us can take a compliment for our clothes, but not our intelligence or not our talent. Can you receive it graciously with gratitude? Because if we are unable to receive the blessing and the gift of a compliment, then we are denying ourselves some aspect of the Christ presence. We are denying some aspect of God breathing itself as us. We are denying some aspect of our greatness and our divinity when we dismiss a compliment, when we refuse to love ourselves, refuse to take care of ourselves, refuse to nurture ourselves, refuse to make sure that we are pouring into our own lives, because we can't pour into someone else's life if our vessel is empty. So are we pouring into our own lives, and are we allowing others to pour into our lives so that we may from the overflow pour into theirs? I came that you may have life and have it abundantly. The three wise men came in the story, in the metaphysical interpretation. The three wise men came to the manger and brought with them a variety of gifts. And they brought things like frankincense and myrrh and gold and such. And the entire reason these are the things that they brought, because they represent things like abundance and life and health and divinity and immortality. They are representing, they are demonstrating, this is what you deserve. You deserve abundance and wealth and prosperity and opulence. You deserve health and well-being. You deserve to recognize your divinity and your immortality, your eternality. You deserve to recognize and live from your infinite potential. And so they're gifting this baby. They didn't bring it for mom and dad. This ain't yours, Mary. This ain't yours, Joseph. This is for the baby. We brought this for the baby. It's for the baby. It's for Yeshua, for the Christ consciousness, for the truth of our being. And when the truth of our being matures, is allowed to mature, is allowed to be what is present, then we are living life abundantly in all aspects, not just financial, but we are living life abundantly physically in terms of our health and well-being. We are living life abundantly in terms of our relationships and the ways that we engage in our beloved community. We are living life abundantly when we are simply able to take in the grandeur and the beauty of life around us. We are living abundantly. But once again, when we deny and say, but do I really deserve this gold? What have I done to deserve frankincense and myrrh? What have I contributed? What by what standards am I good enough to be recognized with this and by this? When we do that, we turn the dimmer switch. We are allowing our light to be dimmed. Now, in truth, the essence of the light of Christ, the essence of the light of love, can never be dimmed, quieted, or quelled. But what we are doing is we are turning our ability to recognize it. We are putting blinders on, and we are closing the focus of our vision so that we are no longer able to see it, to recognize it, or to receive and live from this place of giftedness. You know, we this little light of mine, the light isn't little. It really isn't. The light of God is so immense and expansive that the mind of the human is incapable of comprehending it. In much the same way, if I said, can you comprehend the magnitude of stars beyond measure? If I ask you, count the number of grains of sand in the Sahara Desert, it's unfathomable. Like, am I even able to count that high? It's that this grand light of mine, that which God is as the light that is me, the still small voice. The only reason it's small is because we turn the volume of the world and everything else, and death and destruction, and war and rumors of war, and sexism, racism, homophobia, xenophobia. We turn the volume of all of this other stuff up. And so the truth of our being, we turn the voice of our third grade teacher so high. We turn the voice of grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, somebody, somewhere, something who told us we're not good enough. We turn the volume of that up and we listen to it more rather than turn that down. What is that sound of truth that is reminding us of our own divine nature, of our own divinity, of our own spiritual magnificence? What is that sound? Because when we recognize that, then we recognize the magnitude of truth. And Christmas, this season of light, this opportunity to birth the Christ within, is the opportunity to reawaken to the truth of our being. There is only the infinite I am showing up in human form. There is only God the good. Omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience itself showing up as these individualized, incarnating human forms. But there is only that which God is. And the season of light is our opportunity to recognize that light, that menorah, that star is a reminder of the light of my being, is the opportunity to reawaken myself, to rebirth myself with each breath. Remember, with each word, remember, with each thought, remember, with each way I serve and act and walk the walk, remember the truth of my being. Because when we remember the truth of our being and we live from that place, then these miracles and even greater are we able to do. We are then able to transform our own lives. We are able to transform our community. We are able to transform our city, our state, our nation, our continent, our world. We are able to transform so that there is no more need for racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia. There is no more need for any war or rumors of war. There is no need for it. There is no need for suffering. There is no need for. So when we recognize, when we breathe, when we engage in spiritual practice, when we live from what we know, from the truth of our being, but are we afraid? Are we afraid to step forward? Because we've heard the stories. We've seen the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s who stepped forward and were beaten and jailed and assassinated. We've seen the blame and the ridicule and the criticism that the Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's receive, and the Harvey Milks of the world, and the James Baldwin's. We've seen and we've heard the stories of the Gandhis and the Peace Pilgrims. We've heard the stories of these light workers and people who have worked towards changing the scope of human consciousness through all of the avenues and ways that they have served. We've heard the stories and we've seen. Is it because we're afraid? To whom much is given, much is required. Are we afraid of being asked to do much? Are we afraid of being asked to step forward? Are we afraid of being asked to give from the overflow? Are we afraid that there is not enough? Because if we're afraid that there isn't enough, then ultimately what we're saying is that somewhere within God, God can run dry. that God, being an infinite well, clearly is not infinite, it is finite, and the well of love can run dry. The well of prosperity and joy and beauty can run dry. That at some point we are now running on E because we are empty of, we are void of, we can give no more because it's gone. Because we equate things like money. Well, clearly I can be without money. I can use it all up and my bank account can be zero. And we think that somehow that works the same way. We light a candle. Well, the candle can burn out and the darkness comes back. And therein lies the paradox. These are symbolic representations. They are not facts, not the facts of or the truth of our infinite being. The truth of our infinite being is beyond measure. So the question is, are we taking the invitation? Are we willing to take the invitation? Are we willing to move from judgment and criticism to acceptance? Are we willing to atone and forgive and reconcile? Are we willing to not be attached to the outcome or be attached to this idea of the fear of failure or the idea of, well, if I succeed, then people are going to want more from me and I don't want them to want more from me. I want them to leave me alone. Whatever it is, whatever the story is, whatever the thing is, Christmas, this time of year, is our invitation to go big, to embrace the idea that we can live more abundantly, to embrace the idea that we can do this and even greater, that we can be like Viktor Frankl, that we can be like Mother Teresa, that we can be like Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, that we can be like George Lucas or Walt Disney or Audre Lorde or any number of other powerful creatives who embrace their imagination, that we can be the Charles and Myrtle Fillmore of 2020, that we can be the Emma Curtis Hopkins of 2020 into 2021, that we can be the Ernest Holmes, that we can be the new emerging powerful force for good, that we can be like Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, that we can lead, that we can guide through the darkness and the storms of life, that we can be like Frosty, the snowman, and dance through the town square, that we can be like the 12 days of Christmas and celebrate each day, that it is our divine birthright to recognize that each of these things is a gift and a blessing, that it is without measure, that we can receive the invitation to gift ourselves with the truth, that we can give ourselves the opportunity to recognize, to realize, and to know how truly magnificent we are, that who and what we are magical, mystical, powerful beings of light and love and joy. And that when we recognize that when we start the day in recognition of the Christ consciousness, not just within us, but that it is the expanse of all that we are. And the within is what we are doing when we bring it into our jobs. We bring this awareness into, we are birthing it into, we are bringing it into the world of our external affairs, recognizing that simply through our understanding and our recognition that this meeting is now hallowed ground, that simply by blessing this meal, we are recognizing the expansiveness of my blessing ripples out to every hand, every delivery person, every truck, every tree, every shrub, every blade of grass, everything that went into providing this before us, that it is all blessed through our recognition. In the same way that the woman was reaching for the cloak of Yeshua, and through simply touching his cloak, she was blessed. Imagine what happens when we accept and step into our divine birthright, knowing that who and what we are is love made flesh, is light in human form, and that every thought we think and every word we speak and every emotion that we feel and every way that we serve our beloved community and serve the world is precisely what Christmas, the gift of, the blessing of, the shining of, is precisely what the season of light, of what Christmas means. Did you miss the quote when I said that Charles Fillmore said that it is about being in the midst of, right here where I am, God is. If I am in traffic, God is. If I am in the bank, God is. If I am in the hospital, God is. If I am in the living room watching the news, God is. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Breathe that in, accept the truth of that. Why is all well? Because I declare it and I affirm it. And in my declaring it and affirming it, I am doing the same thing that Yeshua did. I am doing the same thing that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did, and Gandhi did, and Mother Teresa did, and Harvey Milk did. I am seeing the world through different eyes. I am seeing the world through different feelings of love, compassion, and understanding. I am seeing a world that works for all, and I am doing what is mine to do to demonstrate and manifest it accordingly. I hear the clarion call of change, and I answer the call by being an emissary of light and love. I birth this awareness into every interaction that I have. Namaste. I see the divine in me sees itself in you, and I recognize your divinity even if you don't. I recognize love in, through, and as you even if you don't. I gift you with my presence simply by being present and actively, compassionately, lovingly listening to you. Seeing you, not seeing just what you want me to see through the mask of, but seeing the true you, seeing the Christ that you are, seeing the love that you are. And I accept that this is my responsibility, because that which God is as me calls me to being the infinite I am that is ever becoming, ever becoming, ever becoming. And so we breathe as we prepare to go into meditation, recognizing that this breath, God breathing itself, that we do not breathe tomorrow's breath, and we do not breathe or rebreathe a breath from yesterday, and we cannot save a breath for a rainy day, but we can only breathe right here and right now in this present moment. This breath anchors us to the present moment. It is in this present moment that we are able to change and transform. It is in this present moment that the gift of awareness resides. It is in this present moment that we surrender and allow the body's intelligence to breathe. The body is intelligent enough to participate in this thing called respiration. And so we surrender and allow it to do what it does. And in this surrendering and this allowing, we ultimately are recognizing that this breath is God breathing itself. As each and every one of us, the divine and holy Ruach, breath of God, breathing itself. Every cell of this body, divine. Every bone, every organ, every blood vessel, every tendon, all of it, divine, sacred, and holy. And it is in recognizing this divinity of our own body that we recognize the divinity of our beingness. That if the very body that we are, the very body that we have, the very body of our beingness is the very temple of the divine, that God is within and without, meaning God is inside and outside. God is not just the soul and spirit, but that God is the very flesh of our beingness. We are made of, in, through, and as the very likeness of the universe itself. And we breathe in gratitude. We breathe in this expansive awareness, recognizing, appreciating, nurturing, tending, and cultivating the very power and presence of love and joy, recognition, realization, and actualization. We actualize the truth of our being. We allow the Christ presence, the Christ consciousness, the power of love to be in our thinking, in our words, in our feeling, and in our actions. We walk the walk. We bless simply in our hello to a neighbor, recognizing that everyone we see and everyone who sees us sees the face of God. We bless that everyone who hears us and everyone that we hear hears the voice of love. We bless that everything that we touch, every box of cereal in the department store, in the grocery store, every shopping cart that we touch, every cantaloupe that we test to see if it's ripe, everything that we touch, the ground upon which we walk, we know and we recognize the divine and the holy, that everything we touch is touched by God, is God touching, conferring a blessing upon itself to such a degree that we know that when we put that box of cereal back because we've changed our mind, or we push the shopping cart in the receiving bin and we leave, that the next person who touches that box, the next person who touches that cart, the next person who walks on the same sidewalk, that they feel the divine influx of God, because we have left it behind for them to receive it, for them to feel it, for them to be filled by it, for them to recognize the truth of their own being. We bless. We bless ourselves, knowing that we are living and living more abundantly each day, each breath, each thought, each feeling, each opportunity to be more and more of who and what we are. We bless. We bless our friends, we bless our family, we bless our divine and beloved community. We bless it all, recognizing that it is all God, it is all good. And so we recognize that, yes, there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Yes, there is love on earth because it began with me. Yes, there is change, transformation, and the power of Christ because it has begun with me. And we breathe, we allow, we accept. And recognizing this, together we declare this truth by saying, and so it is. Namaste and blessings to you all at Unity of Fredericksburg. Much love to you. Looking forward to when I can see you all live and in person once again. Take care. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Knowing the truth for us all. Much love.